With parts getting harder and harder to find and prices going higher and higher, today I'm going to show you how to repair this rusted out transmission crossmember, which goes on that 2004 Chevy Suburban, today on Challenge to Build. So right now I am in the midst of doing a lot of rust repair and rust conversion on this 2004 Chevy Suburban 2500. And in doing so, I found a lot of damage and rust in the top side. This sits up underneath the frame rails like this. The transmission sits on top of this part here. And as you can see, it's pretty well rotted out, and a lot of separation and delam within the metal. And this side is in relatively good shape, but it is starting to delam and separate right here. So I'm going to make the same repair on this side as this side, make it uniform, clean it up, and hopefully make it look as good as new. Definitely stronger than what you see here. This is a two-piece design. There's the bottom piece, which is like this channel. And then what they did from the factory was they capped it, and then you can see spot welds along the sides. So the way I'm going to go about doing this is I am going to go ahead and cut a fresh line down this part of the crossmember, cutting out most of this bad material on the edge, and in doing so we'll cut those spot welds off as well. And on this back side where this pad comes out for the transmission, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it here. I'm just kind of eyeballing, not really measuring anything, just looking at how bad the rust is. And we're going to just kind of cut that out there. I'm going to leave that. Same thing on this side. Cut that out. And then once we get into here, I'm going to cut this crap out too. Double that up. Since these aren't really being used, there's only the two holes being used. Same thing on this side. Get all this crap cut out and put in some new stuff. And now it is time to cut. Rust stinks. Now I just have to repeat the same cut, but remember not to cut too far because I'm going to leave this little mount that's the transmission mount actually sits on. So I'm going to just cut here and down this side, and then this should separate once I cut the top side. Son of a gun. Stubborn little thing. it's just a matter of repeating the same steps that I did on this side over here, and then we'll get ready to clean it up and move on to the next few steps. I need a hammer too. Rust makes everything more difficult. Right there is why you want to wear a face shield and not run down the grinder or the cutting wheels all the way down past the point of no return. Well, a few days have passed, and as you can see, the cross member looks a little bit different. What I did was I went ahead and finished cutting everything apart and then took the time to Corroseal the cross member and then gave it ample time to dry. Also, I took the time while it was drying to take the measurements I needed to go ahead and cut out the new steel that I needed. This is 1/8 inch plate, and mine measures out to about 6 inches wide, and I left them long. So this way here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, you can see the curve in the cross member. So the plan is to go ahead and put this on here, tack weld it here, and then take a clamp and then clamp this down, and it will should take the curvature of the cross member. Also too, I cut a little piece of backing plate, so I'm going to stick this in here as a backing plate so that way it gives the weld more penetration and a place to grab onto. What else did I do? After the Corroseal was dry, I ground down all of my contact edges where I'm going to need to weld, and then I took some Upol weld through primer, copper weld through primer, and coated all of the cross member on the inside with weld through primer along with the underside of the steel plate. Now I'm just getting everything set up to start welding. I left the piece of metal long, tack welded it. As you saw, I bent it in, and then since I tack welded it here and then compressed it down into the curve here, it pulled it in. So that's why I left it long. So this way now I'm going to trim it. I'm going to clean up these corners. I'm going to grind down into these corners a little bit on the front and on the sides. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to cut, clean, and then weld these corners up again, and then move on to the other side. Also, make sure you have a well-ventilated area because of all the treatment that I have on there. This was excessively smoky, and you can hear my ventilation fan running in the center of my garage. I have the windows open, and I opened the doors once I was finished. But make sure you are in a well-ventilated area outside, or have like a fume extractor nearby. I would like to have one of those, but I don't have one yet. But the central exhaust fan works really well as long as there's a window or a door open. So keep that in mind when you're doing this kind of work. The last thing that I need to do is drill a few holes in the cross member. And the nice thing is, obviously I can use the pre-existing holes and just drill through the piece of metal that I put in. So that's what I'm going to do now. I am using a few different drill bits to kind of not work so hard. Starting with a 1/4 inch pilot, running up to 3/8, 1/2 inch, and then finally drilling them out to, I believe, 37/64. And then this series of holes, I'm going to drill 2 different holes and then take a hand file, because this is an oblong oval. So this way here, there's a little bit of adjustment. I already went ahead and drilled that side. Now I just have to finish this side and finish her up. Change of plans. After drilling 2 1/2 inch holes, I'm going to use a carbide reamer for the die grinder and just oblong this out and do the same thing to the other side. So let's give this a whirl. That made things simple. I like that handy dandy tool. Right tool for the right job makes things a lot easier.